Most people think of red light therapy as a beauty or a weight loss hack, but the science goes much deeper. In today's episode, I have Dr. Carl Rothschild, and he's going to reveal how red and near infrared light act as an exercise for your cells, helping midlife bodies reset metabolism, balance hormones, reduce pain, and even sharpen brain health. This conversation will challenge the way you think about light and longevity. Welcome to the Hill Deal Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Leona Allen, and I'm here to help you achieve more freedom in your health and your life. I'm the founder of Freedom Health Systems, and I've been a licensed chiropractor and wellness coach for over 2 decades. I've helped men, women, and children transform their lives by removing the physical, chemical, and emotional barriers to natural healing. Every week, I'll be taking you on a journey where you will discover the real truth behind what it takes to heal your mind, body, and soul. Allow me to be your guide as you travel this road to renewed health and a new life. It's time to make a deal with yourself to heal yourself. Please keep in mind that this podcast is for educational purposes only and not to be used as a replacement for medical diagnosis or treatment. With that said, let's begin. Welcome, Dr. Carl. I'm so excited to have you here today on the Heal Deal podcast. And you are a pioneer in red light therapy and founder of Trifecta Light. So I can't wait to hear more about your journey and how you got into that. I mean, you've developed professional grade RLT systems for wellness clinics and practitioners worldwide. And you have over 4 or 5 decades, we talked about it earlier, in chiropractic care.
A bunch of decades.
And functional health. So the list goes on and on. You have a very good resume. But we're going to go ahead and talk about how did you end up getting into this work? Let the audience know a little bit about you and who Dr. Carl is before we get into the specifics of red light therapy.
So it was 1972, and I was a junior at Stony Brook University out in New York. It's a very good school. And I was a science nut. I was into biology and into the human anatomy. But to be honest, I didn't know what I was going to do. I was a little bit of a rebel, and going the traditional route that everybody expected me to go didn't thrill me. But chiropractic, I started hearing about it. And now I got to tell you, in New York, chiropractic was frowned upon. And that may have even made it more incentive for me to check it out more. But I started calling chiropractors all over the country. It was no easy feat back in 1972, believe me. And now every chiropractor I spoke to loved what they were doing. They didn't like it. They loved it. And so, I was my version of a hippie. That meant to me that money was not going to be as important as helping people. That was my goal. Help as many people as I possibly can in an all natural way, not hurting anybody, and doing it in such a way that I don't mind making money, but that would not be my main focus. And so chiropractic just fit the bill. I graduated and became a chiropractor in 1978. And I loved it. I was helping a lot of people. Back then, there were not that many chiropractors as compared to when I retired just a few years ago. There were 50 times more, maybe 50 times more chiropractors than there were when I started. It was a lot more. And but what happened was, in about 20 years, now I'm a wise guy from New York, right? 20 years into my practice, and a medical doctor comes up to me who I knew him in the past, and he said he wanted me to help him save the world. I said, what are you talking about? He said, it's red light therapy. And he hands me what looks like a flashlight. It's about this big. And he says, I want you to shine it on all your patients and watch magic happen. And of course, I thought he was crazy. Again, I knew everything. I've been in practice already 20 years. But I promised him that I would at least give it a try, and I did.
Are you doing everything right, but still battling fatigue, brain fog, and weight that just won't budge? Here's the truth. It's not your willpower, it's your metabolism, and I can show you exactly how to fix it. I just released a free breakthrough training that reveals why 88% of Americans are metabolically broken and the three-phase system that reverses it. If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and start seeing real results, go to beginhealingtoday.com. Again, that's beginhealingtoday.com, and you'll also find this link in the description. Now back to the episode.
And within a relatively within a month, we started seeing some changes that were kind of surprising. Now imagine that equipment back then was thousands of times weaker than what I'm currently using now, and yet and still we had nice results. So this lady comes in, she says, I have gum disease. You think it can help that? Now, the only thing we knew back then, they didn't know how and why it worked, but they knew one thing, it couldn't hurt. So I said, look, it can't hurt, so let's try it. Help the gum disease, help this guy kidney problem, help this guy had ripped his Achilles tendon, 75% tear. He needed surgery. We sent him to the orthopedist. The surgery wasn't going to be until the end of the week. This was the beginning of the week. So we said, why don't you just come in and we'll treat you every day with this new light that we were using. And when he went for the surgical review, he didn't need surgery. So I'm not telling you that orthopedist was thrilled with me because we took a surgery away from him. But then we knew for sure this is not a toy anymore. This was some serious stuff. And so that was a class 1 device, meaning it was kind of weak. It didn't need special approval. And then we, as the world of technology grows and gets better, we got a class 2, class 3, and finally a class 4, which is the maximum power you could have, with great results. But then something happened about 14, 15 years ago. It was determined and shown that there was an element of light that I was not involved with, an element of light that helped with weight loss. And most of us know that there's not too many things in this country that's more popular than weight loss. And if you can add weight loss to a smart diet, now a smart diet is not a deprivation diet. Anyone can lose weight if you stop eating, but no one's going to sustain and maintain that. And what we're looking for, again, I've had thousands and thousands of patients, and a lot of them part of the program was nutrition and weight loss. And the main thing is to keep it off, not just to lose it. And so that we used to create clubs called Keep It Off Club as I opened this up to offices all over the country. And I know a lot about weight loss. I know a lot about how difficult it can be. And again, it's easier actually to lose the weight than it is to keep it off. So if it's a smart diet that you can integrate for the rest of your life, not just this week, this month, or whatever, that's the best. So now you take a smart diet, which is calorically neutral for the weight that you want, which is not starvation, it's not deprivation. It's, and you don't have to give up completely on anything you like, but you just have to lessen the amount. The main 4 things that we try to get people to lower is the amount of starchy carbohydrates, simple sugars, sodas, and alcohol. Those 4 things. Now, there's dozens of things that are not good for us. But from a weight loss point of view, those 4 things would be helpful to lessen, if not eliminate. And alcohol is the killer because alcohol, the way it's handled in the body, will make weight loss a really difficult thing if you also compare it with eating a lot or eating more than you should. So at any rate, with very nice results, we started seeing good stuff from that. And that's when I realized soon after that I'm going to be getting involved with manufacturing. So I've been involved in the manufacturing world for about 14 years now. And we were involved with lasers, we were involved with pads and panels and things like that, all covering parts of the body. And then something that affected all of us was COVID. And our practitioners were asking us for something that would be less physical, there would be less physical contact between the patient and the provider. And we came up with a bed. With the bed, you don't need staff for that. You can get in and out of the bed yourself. And, we just thought it would be a nice substitute for what we had been manufacturing up to that point. But within a month of us having delivered the first series of beds, the kind of results that we were hearing and seeing were unbelievable. So I'm going to give you an example. Imagine, and when I do a live audience, well, it doesn't even have to be even if it's a Zoom or a virtual audience, But when I do a live audience, I could say, okay, raise your hand if you think this or whatever. So I would say, everybody, if you know about red light therapy, raise your hand. Just a few years ago, hardly anybody's hand would go up. And now, because of the beds that we've created and then others copied from that, the amount of people that know about red light therapy has grown exponentially. I mean, it's huge now. You know that. But that beginning of the COVID, we sent out the beds. This one guy was reporting to us about a gentleman who was having heart attacks once, if not twice a week. It started 12, 13 years ago as once a month, twice a month, 3 times, and it was just getting worse and worse and worse. And 12 years into it, he was dying. I mean, every organ, every gland, every tissue in his body was suffering. He had all kinds of issues, including depression, because he used to be an athlete, and now taking 10 steps would be impossible for him. So he was very frustrated. Let's put it that way. So the practitioner calls me up and says, I don't know if I should even treat him. He's having heart attacks. I don't want him having one in my office. I said, look, at the one thing we know is you couldn't hurt him. So why don't we just put him in there for 5 minutes? Normally a dose is 12 minutes. Why don't we just treat him for 5 minutes, stay in the room the whole time, and let's see what happens. The patient goes home that night. That was years ago. He's had more treatment, but he's never had another heart attack. Hundreds of heart attacks, no more heart attacks. And everything has come back to life. Everything. His energy, his clarity. Forget about his erectile dysfunction, no longer a problem. His skin, everything has come back to life. And that was a bit of a surprise to all of us, to be honest with you. We thought nice results. We didn't expect the classification, and I know it's not the most scientific term, is miraculous. I don't know what else to say. And when I tell this story, and I'm going to be sending you videos, and one of them, his name is Arnett. And when you see that video, it's fun to listen to him. Now, imagine I started in 78 as a chiropractor. Before that, I told you I was excited about helping people. And we've never heard the term, thank you for giving me my life back, more than we're hearing it now. It's exciting. And when you hear Arnett's, you'll see why did I have goosebumps. Just trying to not interrupt him, listening to the miracles that happened for him and how his life, his quality of life is through the roof now. And, we get stories like that that are happening more and more. It's just, I'm in love with this stuff. The road to success is passion and belief. If you believe strongly in something and you have a passion behind that, and you're not selling junk, you're selling something, like if you're selling a used car, I don't know if you can have passion about that knowing that it's a piece of junk. But there are people out there that could sell crap. But imagine if you're promoting a way of life and a way of healing that will get people away from unnecessary. Now, I believe in drugs and surgery, but there's also unnecessary drugs and surgery. Because in this country, there are some very ethical doctors, and then there are pharmaceutical people, but there's also some not so ethical, and you can understand it. On this hand, you go to the guy and say, you can do the surgery on this guy's shoulder and make $10,000 or not. What's he going to choose? What's she going to choose? It's an unfair scenario that you're putting somebody in, but this is what these guys face every day. Which way are they going to go? Are they going to go with the expensive way of going that they can make a lot of money or not? With the lights, there's a relatively famous celebrity that I didn't know him, that who was telling his buddy that he had needed back and shoulder surgery. And after 2 weeks of treatment, he didn't need that surgery. He calls up the orthopedist and says, I'm not getting that surgery. So for this reason, you can understand that some of the surgeons out there are not thrilled with red light therapy. And the stories can go on. I mean, Steve, who had Lyme disease and contracted when he was 12, and it ruined his life. I mean, he had no energy. He couldn't have a career, couldn't go to school because there were days he couldn't get out of bed. And this went on for 40 something years. It's horrible. And he gets in our bed and gets out of the bed and notices nothing different. And he just, brushes this off as a bunch of junk. And then, but 5 hours later, And ever since, it's totally changed his life. So I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna send you these videos. That's
Yeah, please do.
Arnett. Now with Arnett, when you see his image, you'll see that he had black moles, not a million of them, but he had some black moles on his face. When you see the video, there are no black moles on his face. They're gone. So you would be hard pressed to find any condition out there that would not respond. And I know it's making claims. I have to be careful about this. I'm not telling you to ignore your practice, your medical doctor, whatever they say is critical. You have to go that route. I can't intervene. But so I'm not going to make claims. I'm going to report history. I'm going to report the news is what I'm doing. I could tell you about Jessica who had horrific 16 horrible conditions and they're all gone. And one of them was she had uveitis in the eye, which meant that she had so much pressure in her eye that she was going to lose her eyesight if she didn't get it treated. So what was the treatment? An injection in her eye once a month. And it was horrific. When I asked her, when you watch the video, her name is Jessica. When you watch this video, you'll see. I said, well, what was that like? And she goes, oh, it was horrible. So she doesn't need that anymore. And all 16, 15 other things are all gone. The 20 years of diarrhea only gone. The shingles, the Lyme disease, the stomach, throat, migraines, all these different things that she had, they're gone. So does that make me happy? Absolutely. So I want to go over a couple of things with you. Here's the deal that I'm going to make with all of you. I'm going to make an announcement. You're no longer allowed to complain at all about your ailment if you haven't tried the bed 6 times. Now, I'm not in practice, so I'm not inviting you to my office. I'm not going to gain one iota whether you go or not. I'm just telling you that the way you can do me a favor is I want to get your feedback. So I want you to try this bed. We have hundreds of them all over the country. I want you to go to the website, Trifecta Light. Now, tri as in 3, triple effect of face, fat, and healing. That was the initial reason why they called it trifecta. Face, fat, and healing. Now, it turns out there's a lot more things besides that, but that was early on when they first coined the name trifecta. So their website is trifectalight.com. And then you go to the Contact Us page. And on that Contact Us page, on the left side of that page, is an opportunity for you to put in your zip code or whatever and give us your name so we can communicate. I had one person say, why are you asking my name? I don't know. So we can talk to you, speak to you. People are very paranoid. You don't want to get the treatment, fine. But you can't complain anymore. So you might want to get the treatment. So it'll allow you to continue complaining. But I think you won't complain. So when you go to the website, trifectalight.com, Contact Us page, left side, put in your address or your zip code or whatever, and we'll find the office closest to you. And I'm asking you to try it 6 times. That's 3 times a week for 2 weeks. Each dose is only 12 minutes. And tell them you want the Rothschild special. Dr. Rothschild here. Tell them you want the Rothschild special and they need to give you a reduced price or I'll have to kill them. Let's not get violent here. I'll do something. And try it for 6 times. Then I want you to go back to the Contact Us page. And on the bottom of that, there's a way for you to communicate with us and just tell me what happened. And it is rare that we found anybody after 6 visits doesn't notice a difference. I don't care if it's Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, diabetes, Lyme disease, we already talked about, stroke. We had Jerisha who had a stroke. And it was devastating, right? After 8 visits, she was better than before she ever had the stroke. Were we expecting that? No. All of these things, many of these things were surprising. What we learned is that when you bathe the whole body at the same time, that's what makes the difference. I don't mind the masks, the helmets, the pads, and all that. We make those. But I'm not really promoting them anymore because I'm into miracle mode. I want to help you get younger. We call it the fountain of youth, to look younger and feel younger, but really, in general, healthier. And so red light is a beautiful thing. When I talk to you about it in just a moment of how and why it works, you'll get an idea that it's really all about sunlight. So we're going to discuss that in just a moment. But no matter how severe your problem is, after 6 visits, you should feel something different. Even very advanced, whatever it is, you should see a difference that hadn't been noticed before. We have so many people who've had such remarkable results. I've only talked to you about four. Arnett with the heart, Jessica with the 16 things, Steve with the Lyme disease, Jerisha with the stroke. We got many, many more. I'm going to talk to you in a moment about how athletes benefit so tremendously. We've got some major athletes that get in the bed before and after their activity, and they get in it before and they'll perform much better, and they get in it afterwards and they'll recover so much faster and more thoroughly. But now let's talk about why and how it works. First of all, on the fat loss part, what they learned was that, and again, remember when the fat loss element came around, I was not using this type of light. My miracle light is near infrared. So to that end, let's talk about the difference between the different infrareds. The word infrared really doesn't exist by itself. There's no such thing as just infrared. It's either far infrared, which is heat, or near infrared, which is what we call cold or not hot. And heat is wonderful for hot, for what it is. It's about as beneficial as a hot shower, jacuzzi. I mean, heat's fine. But from the long-term changes that you're going to see with the miracle wavelengths of near infrared, it's a whole different world. So let's talk about the near infrared. Now, near infrared is invisible to the naked eye, as is far infrared. What we used to call near infrared cold laser or cold therapy. Again, not because it was literally cold, but it didn't get hot. Heat is the enemy. What heat does is it dilates blood vessels, brings more fluid to the surface. It's why when I take a heat pack off one of my patients' back, it's bright red under there. So you don't want that because the lights can't penetrate that blood that gets in the way. So you want cold, or, when a person uses our bed, they're going to feel at most mildly warm, not hot, certainly not uncomfortable. Most people will fall asleep, even though it's only 12 minutes long. So that's the difference between near infrared and far infrared. And then there's red light. Now, red light, when I talk about the word red light therapy, we're automatically talking about the integration of red with near infrared. So red has been found to be wonderfully helpful in the fat loss. I wasn't using red light. And now it's been shown that it's the red light that makes the big difference for the healing, for all these other, for the fat loss. So let's talk about how that works. What they found out was, and they thought it melted the fat or it liquefied or did something to make the fat come out more easily. And that's not what happens. What they learned was that the fat cell walls become porous temporarily, just for a few hours, from the exposure of this red light. And some of the contents leak out into the surrounding tissue. And then with our unique protocol, we move the fat away from the fat cells and eventually to the liver for use or elimination. It's that simple. It's non-injurious. There's never been a recorded side effect with that. In fact, as I think I may have mentioned, in the 50 years that they studied this technology, there's never been a recorded side effect. So you couldn't hurt somebody with this stuff if you tried. While we're on that subject, in the world of contraindications, there really aren't any of those either. So you can get into bed with electronics, like a pacemaker or a defibrillator, things like that. You can get into bed with metal implants and things like that. There are no real contraindications. The not real contraindication is pregnant women. So there's really the lights would be helpful to the mother or the fetus. But what we tell people is that if that baby is destined to come out anything other than perfect, having nothing to do with our lights, and when that baby does come out not perfect, those parents are going to sue everybody that was in the neighborhood. And I just tell everyone, you know what, let's not be in that neighborhood. But the day after she delivers, get her in the bed, especially right after C-section. The results are not subtle. They're fantastic. So that's about the contraindication. So let's get back to how red light works. We talked about changing the permeability or making the fat cell wall more porous. And that's as simple as that. So now let's talk about my miracle wavelength of near infrared. Now, red has to do with fat loss and a little bit of healing. Near infrared doesn't do really anything for fat loss, but it's beautiful for all the miraculous wavelengths that I was talking about that help with the healing aspect. So what they found is that it's an element of sunlight. That's what we've done is we've taken four beautiful elements of sunlight, not the elements of sunlight that could be problematic, like UV light, like blue, or any of the others that could screw up a variety of other systems, but just red and near infrared. And again, we magnify those many, many times and drive it deep into the person's body. And what they learned was that the light, and it makes sense, we're on a planet with sun, and if you're living in a cave and don't get some sunlight, your health will not be as good. Now, the lights that we have are not as a replacement for the sun. It's a different animal, but you want to have both. You want to have smart eating, smart exercise, smart sunlight, and of course, integrating red light with this whole process. And what they learned was that there is this element in every cell of your body. It's called the mitochondria. So your body's made up of tissues. Every tissue is made up of cells, and every cell has these unique, what's called organelles, called mitochondria. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the body. It's the reason why you breathe oxygen, and it's the reason why you eat food. That combination, with the help of the mitochondria, produces a very important molecule called ATP. The ATP is the energy currency of your body. If you have the right amount of ATP, you can withstand almost anything. And if you don't have the right amount of ATP, that will eventually lead to disease and finally death. And it's assumed that everyone's going to have a wear and tear of their ATP, or their mitochondria, I should say, and eventually have less ATP in their body. Well, it kind of is true, but it's not something that you have to have. If you incorporate red light therapy, we can keep the mitochondria as strong as possible so that you can ward off most anything and you can heal from almost anything that you have. So it sounds crazy. It sounds miraculous. I apologize if it sounds nuts to you because it did sound crazy in the beginning to me as well. And yet, and still, all these beautiful results that we're seeing, it can't be denied. So again, what we've done is we've stimulated the mitochondria from these four elements of sunlight that we've used and drive it into the person's body to bring the mitochondria back to life. So this is why it's so global. This is why it sounds like snake oil, that it can help just about anything because it's affecting every cell conceivably every cell in your body. So I don't care what you have. You cannot complain if you haven't tried 6 visits on one of these beds. So you go to the website and check that out. Did I make it clear, or is
No,
that?
it's very clear. It doesn't sound crazy at all because I say it all the time. Healing starts in the cell, and this is a way, like you said, this is how you exercise your cells by building the mitochondria because our cells create tissue or tissue create organs. So if your cells aren't healthy, how are you gonna be healthy overall? So it makes complete sense. Complete sense. It's just nice to know that we have tools and strategies to boost that cellular health because what's happening in our society, we're just treating symptoms of early cell death, where we can minimize that with our lifestyle and also boost it with these therapies that you're mentioning. So makes
But do you
complete
understand
sense.
that healthy people don't make anybody money?
Yep.
So making you healthier is not helping that industry. And so it's a fight that I've been fighting longer than many of you have been alive. I've been fighting this battle since 1975 when I started chiropractic school, being an advocate for helping people in a natural way. Chiropractors don't believe in putting anything in the body that doesn't belong there, and also doesn't believe in yanking anything out that does belong there. It's about trying to help your body do a better job. We believe in a thing called innate intelligence, and that the job of a practitioner is to get rid of the interference, get rid of the thing that's causing you to not be able to come and be as healthy as you possibly can. Once we remove the interference, Then we get out of the way and let the innate intelligence do its thing. So if somebody has an arrow in their shoulder, we could put them in the red light bed all we want, but they still got the arrow in their shoulder.
Exactly.
It'd be helpful to get the darn arrow out, then clean it out, patch it up, and then get the heck out of the way and let the body do its thing. And
Good
that's what this.
analogy, because people are learning to live with the arrow in their heart, patch it up, get rid of the symptoms of that. That is a perfect analogy. Yep, remove the arrow.
I was just going to say that the worse off somebody is, interestingly enough, the more severe their condition is, typically more dramatic the changes. So if someone gets in the bed and they're otherwise in perfect condition, I don't know if they're going to notice a difference. I'm not sure. But if they get in the bed and they have really serious problems, most commonly within those 2 weeks, they're going to see some really nice changes. And I'm talking about, we had this one lady that had severe tremors from her Parkinson's. And that was her biggest complaint, even though she had many other ailments involved. But the thing that bothered her most is that when she went to church, she couldn't hold the Bible because her tremors were so severe. And then within a relatively short period of time, those tremors have resolved. So, I mean, more or less, I mean, she still has them, but they're so much less intense that she's able to easily hold the Bible. I have stories, and I'm going to be sending you these videos, sending you a lot of show notes and stuff like that. It could be helpful for people to use the bed and understand why red light therapy should be part of your life. And using the highest quality, what we want you to use is the highest quality medical grade lights that are very strong without getting hot. And also another important thing is that when the top canopy comes down, it comes down right onto your body. As you come away from the light, you lose power exponentially. So some of the devices out there are just simple plug-ins to a regular wall. Well, they're not going to be nearly powerful enough. So ours is a 220 volt power that's needed, which is no big deal. But when you plug that in, you're going to get the kind of power that you want. Also, we have the capability, as I mentioned, to customize the treatment. So someone who's 80 pounds is getting a uniquely different treatment than someone who's 400 pounds. But also, we can pulse the wave, and that creates that resonating frequency. So different conditions will be affected in different ways with the different frequencies we can incorporate.
What do you think of those smaller devices that are still out there? The handheld ones.
Like I was saying,
Are
I
they
have no objection to the helmet, the masks, and stuff like that, but they're good for what they are. But if you were looking for the fountain of youth, so to speak, if you're looking for what I like in well-being is like a candle that burns bright all the ways to the top, down to the bottom, and then sputters out and dies. Not the way it is most people, or too many people, where the last 10 or 20 years of their life ain't so much fun. They're invalids practically, and they can't really get around. I'm 73 years old, and I'm happy to say that I'm pretty active and got most of my brain still here. And, I know that I'm older than I was when I was younger, but I'm still, doing the thing. And I'll tell you, it's important for people to understand why some of you don't take care of yourself. And you know what it's about? They're not scared enough. No one has sat them down and said, if you continue this way, here's the way you're going to wind up. If you want to see how you're going to possibly wind up, go to a convalescent home, go to these old age homes where these people are not having so much fun. They didn't take care of themselves. Now, as a chiropractor, I got to witness this quite a bit. So patients would come into the office, and I would say to myself, I wouldn't say it out loud. I couldn't help myself but to say, please, God, don't let me wind up like that. And so I'm a little bit of a nut. I try not to do anything that's harmful to my body. And so I don't eat a lot of junk that people are now eating. Hardly ever do, one time we went to Vegas and we were stuck driving. And so we went to an In-N-Out burger. That's the only kind of fast food I can think of that I've had. So I wouldn't, I don't recommend all the junk that's in our food as much as you possibly can. Avoid that. Anyhow, I could go on a whole lecture on what to eat and what not to eat, but that's not what this is about. So at any rate, do you have any questions for me?
No, I think it's absolutely incredible because this episode really, you shared a lot, but the biggest thing I want people to get is, what is it? I know people ask me about it all the time. You did a great job sharing what's possible with red light and what it can do. Like I said, a lot of people think it's just a hack. Now you've been in this world for, this career for 50 years, and a lot has changed since the 70s as far as tools and how people see things. But I call you one of the OGs when it comes to like the chiropractic world. It's like a different world practicing then than it is now. But I thank you for, I learned from your generation of chiropractors. Y'all have been through a lot to get to where you are. I think the chiropractors today may be a little spoiled, but it's because of the backs of, the ones that were in it in the 70s and 80s. I started in the 90s. And so I wanted to thank you for that, for, being one of the trailblazers in this area. But as
I
far as
appreciate that.
questions, no, I think this is like just an overview really, but the key answer, you know your stuff, but the key thing you already answered is that it's possible and that there are things that you can do, and you already shared where they can get those resources, and I'll make sure I'll put it in the show notes. But I'm sure this is my world, so I don't have any questions, but I'm pretty sure that after the listeners hear this today, we'll get some questions. And if they weren't answered, I'll let you know and I have you back or something like that. So I think you did a great job. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for doing what you do. And any closing comments before I let you go? This was amazing. Thank you.
It's not about how long you live, it's how healthy you live. You want the highest quality of life from the very beginning to the end. And a lot of people don't get that. They go, first of all, they think they're getting away with something when they're 30 years old, drinking a six pack every night. Thinking, I get away with it. Well, you're not. You're going to pay the consequences when you're older. I guarantee that. With if not brain issues, with the horrific arthritis that people have because they've screwed up their system so badly. Again, alcohol is really a problem. So those of you that are really stuck with loving alcohol, at least lessen the amount and the sugars. And we know that eating right, exercising right, you want to have 3 times a week, just 3 times a week, 30 minutes a shot, trying to get your cardiovascular system going with as many muscles moving at the same time. It's as simple as that. It's not complicated, and it's lovely that people will start taking better care of themselves. So anyhow, I'm here. If people have questions, they can go on the website, go to the contact us page on trifectalight.com, and on the bottom of that page, they can just ask general questions. And if you say, get this to Dr. Rothschild, it will get to me and I'll get back to you. I'm really good about that.
Great words of wisdom. So everybody really listen to this and take the advice, check this information out. And to everyone, thank you for joining. And until next time, go out there and achieve more freedom in your health and your life. Take care. And thank you, Dr. Carl.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, seal the deal to heal by leaving a review, subscribing to the podcast, and sharing with a friend. Thanks again, and we'll continue the journey next week.